Today we're talking about the Acroamatic Cipher. The Acroamatic Cipher is really a type of cipher wherein certain letters are being encoded into the mythology of various cultures, whether it was Jewish culture, Greek culture, or many cultures. So this song here is dealing with really how the Illuminati sold fairy tales as truth and created a particular reality.
Told me a fairy story till I believed in the Israelites, and I believed in Father Christmas, and I looked to the sky with excited eyes. Then I woke with a yawn in the first light of dawn, and I saw him in through his disguise.
You know, in a world where predators, literally predators, spiritual or otherwise, are in power, your best weapon really is awareness and the will to use it. And part of what we do at the Illuminatus Observer is to provide you with the tools for you to become aware. Part of the process of awareness is to be cognizant of the various tools being used against you in order to control your reality. One of these tools, of course, is known as the Acroamatic Cipher. The Acroamatic Cipher is basically a type of cipher that is, at the end of the day, encoding a particular letter and casting that letter as a particular god. An example of this might be the letter or the German god Wotan or Odin, the one-eyed god. Well, the one-eyed god is actually a cipher back to the letter A. From the Hebrew traditions, we have other Acroamatic ciphers, such as, and God rested on the seventh day. Well, if you look at the German God, it's really G-O-T-T or Gott. And when you analyze the letters set against a 26-letter alphabet, the letters G and T will rest on the seventh position of their respective halves of the alphabet, meaning that G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G is the seventh letter, and T starting at N, N-O-P-Q-R-S-T, T is the seventh letter. So therefore, and God rested on the seventh day is really a way of saying, and God rested on the seventh letter. It's a type of cipher, or what I call a placement code. Other types of Acroamatic ciphers that are readily apparent is if you put the alphabet into a 5x5 matrix, and you'll see this actually on a recent article I wrote called The River Styx in the 5x5 Grid, or Matrix, or something like that. It's up at the blog now in December, so you really can't miss it. So what I did is I show how you break the alphabet into a 5x5 matrix, and what you'll find is that the shape of the letter L will form the word Christ, and this will be born, of course, of the Virgin M, or the Virgin Mary. Again, this is a type of Acroamatic cipher. They're actually using a pattern within the alphabet, then they create the mythology around it, and then preserve the placement codes of the deities inside the mythology. Another one of these is the river Styx, S-T-Y-X. Again, this can be derived by what's called the 5x5 matrix, which you can view at the blog if you want to see it. Another interesting Acroamatic cipher is that of called Adam and Eve. It's perhaps one of the more powerful ones used. The Acroamatic cipher of Adam and Eve is actually derived from the letter M. What you do with the letter M is you divide it into its constituent components. If you look at the letter M, it's really comprised of the letter I, then a V, and then an I. What you do is you reorder the IVI, and you form the word 7, or VII. 7 reveals Eve in the middle, which is one part of your code, so you know that you're correct because the code is Adam and Eve. When you reorder the word 7 into VII, and you look at it backwards relative to a Hebrew construct, the two ones becomes the Greek letter pi, which is ADM. A is 1, D is 4, and M is 13. Reverse that, it's 3.141, which is pi. And Eve then becomes its own code, which is really a code for 666. So the word Adam and Eve is really a code for the letters down into the numbers of pi and 666. Because we know in many mythologies, I'm talking about the vast majority of the human cultures, you're talking about a story very similar to the story of Cain and Abel. This story is duplicated literally in virtually every major religion out there, and many of the cultures of the world have their own version of a Cain and Abel story. In the Hebrew, what we do is we take the word Cain and we take the word Abel and we take a look at it. We know really that this is referring back to Osiris and Seth, because we know that the Hebrews basically ripped off everything. So what they did is they ripped off the stories based on Sumerian or the Egyptian tales. So in the story of Cain and Abel, what we're looking at really is the story of Seth killing Osiris. It gets denuded or watered down in the Hebrew because really Seth becomes the evil god to everybody else, but it's the savior god to the Hebrew people. So obviously they're not going to play up this crime, as it were, because, hey, it's what they're worshiping. It's not what we're worshiping, but it's what they're worshiping. So what they did is then they just modified the tale, called it Cain and Abel. But chances are when these tales were written, there were Osirian forces or Isisian forces involved within the Hebrew priestcrafts that encoded the tale to keep it and preserve it. In this tale, you have really two ones. The letter A is one and the letter I is one. Both of these together make the twins. Now, if you watch the movie by Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger with the twins, you had the tall one and then the really short one. Again, this is part of the Illuminati using Acroamatic ciphers and other forms of ciphers and coding it into film, but they're really playing on a part of the construct. Because at the time of the twins, you're looking at the sun as it rests on the winter solstice, which we have today in the northern hemisphere, but the summer solstice in the south. So the sun is either very tall in one hemisphere or very low in the sky on the other hemisphere, hence the tall and the short. In Cain and Abel, they're both regarded as ones, or Abel is as if you stand on 2 feet, which is like the letter A, because I'm able, I'm standing on 2 feet. But if I'm injured and I can only stand on 1 foot, that becomes the letter I. So the Cain will show up in Christmas as the candy cane because they're trying to inject the Hebrew into the tales. Or we have the Christmas tree, which is, of course, the letter A in its other format, mathematical format. So all of these are examples of the Acroamatic cipher. The letter B, for instance, the tales revolving Isis pregnant with Horus, this is an Acroamatic cipher for the letter B. The letter C will have its equivalents, such as the C is Typhon. Well, the C is the letter C, which is Typhon. The letter C occults or hides the life that hides underneath the surface of the water. What this is also telling you is like the moon, when it becomes occulted by the shadow of the earth, it forms a crescent shape, which is another archetype for the letter C. So all of these different tales are hiding the actual letter C. And what will happen, the various letters through the various mythologies, and after a while you come up with the whole alphabet, all the way from Y and X and Z and all the way through. So this gives you just a general idea of what's going on with the Acroamatic cipher. It's something that can be deciphered. It's not such a big deal once you get going into it and figure it all out. I hope you've enjoyed this little quick brief introduction to the Acroamatic cipher. Because it's the holidays, I may be signing out for a few days, but don't bank on that either. I am here in Jordan. I am having some fun writing right now because I have some time and some motivation. So to everybody, I'd like to say Merry, Happy Holidays, Happy Solstice, and whichever way, again, you celebrate the holiday. Thanks again. And from Amman, Jordan, this is The Fetch, and thanks again. Look forward to seeing and meeting up with you soon. For the latest and cutting-edge occult knowledge, visit us at illuminatusobserver.blogspot.com, where we de-story the signatures of the occult as only masters of the craft can do.